Well, that's how it ends for the Kansas State Wildcats. Not with a bang, but with a whimper and a thud as Kansas State falls to Alabama 45-20 in the All-State Sugar Bowl this afternoon in New Orleans. Kansas State ends their season with a 10-4 record, and this is our live reaction from the Sports on 580 team, which today is just yours truly, Dan Lucero. Good to be with you here on this New Year's Eve, and certainly wish we were talking about a happier ending to what has been a tremendous season for the Kansas State Wildcats. And in the first quarter, it looked like the Wildcats were well on their way. After an 88-yard touchdown run by Deuce Vaughn, the Cats jumped out to a 10-0 lead. And we're certainly getting the better of the early exchanges. The defense was tackling, playing aggressively, and offensively, Deuce Vaughn had hit for the game's first big play. Kansas State had the 10-0 lead. 45 of the next 48 points in the game were scored by the Crimson Tide. They would take their first lead early in the second quarter on Bryce Young's second of 5 touchdown passes with 11:33 to play in the second. And then the game turned. People like to talk about the middle four, the 4 minutes that lead into halftime and the 4 minutes coming out of the locker room. And you'd be hard-pressed in any college football game this year to think of a team that dominated the middle four more than Alabama did in this game. Kansas State put together a terrific drive. They went 10-plus minutes with the football, moved the ball down to the Alabama 2, went for it on fourth down, as they had on 2 other occasions on that. And I thought each time it was the right decision. I thought that what Kansas State was doing was coaching to win, not coaching to hang in or coaching to save face. I thought Chris Klieman and his staff coached this game with the idea that they were going to have to take some gambles, take some risks if they wanted to beat Alabama. And those risks, particularly late in the contest, would ultimately not pay off for the Wildcats. And the first of those risks that didn't pay off was going for it on 4th and 2 inside of a minute and a half left in the first half. Will Howard had Ben Sinnott out of the back. Looked like Ben Sinnott might have gotten clutched and grabbed a little bit there by Will Anderson. No flag came as the officials were content to let hand fighting and clutching and grabbing go on downfield all game. And Will Howard had the opportunity, but just kind of sailed the throw a little bit to the corner of the end zone. That's a tight window throw, and he missed his window, and Sinnott couldn't get a hand to it. And that was how that drive ended for Kansas State. But a minute left. K-State had all 3 of their timeouts. And after a first down run gained just 2 yards for Alabama, up to the 4, Chris Klieman called a timeout. Watching live, I think that was the right decision. See if you can't get a 3 and out. K-State had already forced one in the first half. See if you can't get 3 and out. And maybe, just maybe, get the ball back in favorable field position, complete a pass or 2. Maybe you get those 3 points after all, and you go in the locker room down just 1. Well, Alabama, in that final minute, showed why they are, in fact, Alabama. And they would take advantage of the timeout given to them by Kansas State. I think they only needed to call one of their own there down the stretch as they drove down the field and ultimately scored with 10 seconds left in the half on a touchdown pass from Young to Jermaine Burton. So instead of being ahead 17-14 or down just 14-13 or 14-10 going into the locker room, K-State found themselves down by 11. Chris Klieman and his staff stayed aggressive out of the room, having to kick the ball off. They chose to onside kick. Again, that might have been a little aggressive for your taste. It certainly was a little aggressive for mine, but you're coaching with the idea that you need to take some gambles if you want to hang tough with the Alabama Crimson Tide, then that's exactly how you should proceed. The gamble did not pay off for K-State. They did not recover the onside kick, and then it really blew up when 46 yards and 3 plays later, Alabama was back in the end zone, 32 yards Young to Ja'Cory Brooks. After Will Howard was intercepted on a 3rd down pass on the next K-State drive, a 1-play, 17-yard drive ensued. Jace McClellan's touchdown run made it 35-10, and with just 2 minutes gone in the 3rd quarter, the game went from feeling like a toss-up, feeling like K-State might take the lead, to being all but over in just under 3 minutes of game time. Again, that's Alabama. All academic from there as K-State had a field goal late in the 3rd quarter. Alabama would score in the final play of the quarter, a 47-yard catch and run by Kobe Prentice for Young's 5th and final touchdown pass. Alabama would add a field goal. K-State scored on their final offensive drive. A neat moment for the Colby, Kansas native, Jordan Shippers, the former Colby Eagle, punching it in from a yard out to cap off a 71-yard drive at the very end to make the final score 45-20. We talked about it on 580 Sports Talk on Friday, myself and Brendan Dworzinski. You wanted to play Alabama at their best if you Kansas, because if you beat Alabama at their best, then Alabama has no excuses. You've beaten Alabama at their best. You wanted Bama, you got Bama, and you beat Bama. Obviously, that did not happen. You wanted Bama, you got Bama. Boy, did you get Bama. And losing in this scenario for Kansas State, what it does, the value in it, is it shows you how you stack up against a full-strength program, the caliber of Alabama's. And it shows Kansas State just how far they still have to go if they want to play with the elite of the elite. Kansas State hung in there for a half. In fact, I would argue they were the better team for the first 29 minutes of the football game. But football games are 60 minutes, and Alabama ultimately imposed their will. Defensively, they were faster. They were much livelier on defense. There were times it felt like they had 2 or 3 extra defenders on the field, how quickly they were getting downhill to blow plays up. And for Alabama's offense, they had the best player in the game, the best quarterback in the country in Bryce Young. And Bryce Young made some big-time throws. The kind of plays where you tip your cap at the end of the day and say, you know what, we got beat by a great player, we got beat by a great team. And you tip your cap to that at the end of the night. What's next for Kansas State? They're still in a great place. They still had a great season. They won the Big 12. They go into next year with that experience, that championship experience, the extra bowl practices, and the experience, although negative in the final score, but they come back with the experience of having played Alabama and, again, measuring themselves against Alabama. Were they found wanting today? Yeah, they were. But when you measure yourself against a team of this caliber, you can only get better. So Kansas State will have the benefit of that moving forward, and the benefit of having their starting quarterback return, Will Howard, having the benefit of some offensive linemen, perhaps all 5 starting offensive linemen returning next year. DJ Giddens earned some valuable experience. I do think this was it for Deuce Vaughn. And if it is, he went out with a great highlight to remember him by, the 88-yard touchdown run in the first quarter. Vintage Deuce Vaughn, squirting free, showing his speed, lunging into the end zone. If that was it, if that was the capstone on Deuce Vaughn's legendary Kansas State career, it was a fitting one. But I do think he's going to go pro. I know there are people holding out hope he may return, but I think being a running back in particular, you got to go get paid when you can go get paid. I don't think there's anything that Deuce Vaughn can do in one more college season to enhance his draft stock, realistically. So I think this is the time for him to go. If he does, we saw DJ Giddens run the ball effectively in the fourth quarter today and have some moments throughout the year. And if he comes behind 4 or even 5 offensive line starters, with Will Howard back, with some returning experience at wide receiver and tight end, I think Kansas State's going to be in just fine shape on offense. And defensively, their youth in the secondary showed today in some spots. Alabama was able to get some guys free down the field for some of those big throws by Bryce Young, but some of the guys like VJ Payne, a true freshman who made a couple of plays and then was found wanting on a couple of plays, it will be valuable experience for guys like that as they come back for next season. A frustrating and I think a disappointing way for the season to end for K-State fans everywhere. Certainly would have liked to have been more competitive than 45-20. But when you take the 1,000-foot view of what Kansas State accomplished this season, it was a heck of a year for Chris Kleiman's Cats as they captured the 4th conference championship in program history. And they'll move forward having had the experience, knowing exactly what it takes to be at the level of Alabama. And some of those differences, the depth in recruiting caliber and things like that, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough to overcome. But you learn a lot about the program you are and the program you want to be when you play a program like Alabama. And Alabama showed Kansas State today in what was frustrating and disappointing fashion for Cats fans just how far they have to go. But that's a wrap on the college football season. We will have reaction on our family of programs and Sports on 580 on Tuesday. We are taking Monday off, but we will be back on Tuesday, mic'd up from noon to 3 with Jake LeBon. And, well, not Jake LeBon. He's on vacation still. But Fulton Caster will have mic'd up from noon to 3. And then yours truly, Dan Lucero and Brendan Brzezinski from 3 to 6 on 580 Sports Talk. We hope you'll join us on Tuesday. In the meantime, we hope you have a wonderful and safe New Year's holiday.